Thank you, Garrett, and thank you, Sergio. And David, maybe you can start up the slide deck. I'd like to apologize to everybody. I was hoping to be able to spend the full hour, but I'm sitting in my car in the state parking garage across from the Capitol. The committee I was supposed to testify at 10 has not yet started, but it's supposed to start soon. So I'm going to provide some just big picture remarks, and then David will plunge into the substance a little more deeply, and we'll provide two question and answer periods. One just after my very high level overview and a kind of quick update of what's happening, and then David can address some of the more detailed comments about where we're finding PFAS here in Colorado, some of the approaches that we're taking to address it, and some of the work we still have to do. So really big picture on this front, Colorado was actually one of the first hotspots for PFAS related concerns in the last 5 years, primarily associated with the discovery of high levels of PFAS coming off of Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs and affecting a number of the communities, Fountain, Wadfield, Security, being the three biggest down in that area. And that required an immediate response. Good news is we had an Air Force to pay for it, and that they've been pretty good to work with on that issue. But as we look ahead, this is an unusual family of contaminants. It's not one that we have regulatory standards for. It's not one that we have a program for, but jumped quickly, I think, because of discovery through the UCMR drinking water surveillance program and through a health advisory that EPA sent out, not even to the level of standard. That's created a gap that needed to be filled. Since that time, the Department of Defense has been doing more work. They found more of it in Colorado. David can talk to you about that. But we've also started to find it more frequently outside of the defense context. Certainly, we've found contamination in a couple of the influent wells for South Adams County Water District, a couple of fire districts and surrounding wells up in the foothills in Boulder County. And anecdotally, we know that we've got that around the state more extensively. So in order to deal with what's an unusual, apologize for that, I think that's just the word that things are about to get started, across the street, recognizing the unusual nature of this, we knew we needed to have a different way of addressing it. And so we created an action plan within the last year that is focused on breaking the chain of exposure. I think worrying less about liability, contamination cleanup, other sort of things that you would normally deal with in the context of more traditional toxic contamination. And so we're in the process of implementing that. David will lay that out. The legislature also took interest in this last year, passed very important legislation that bans certain training and testing uses for fire departments using this material, is going to create a ban on sales here within the year. And then what I will be doing in a few minutes is talking about one of two bills that's working through the legislature this year. The first, which is already passed, House Bill 1119, creates a modifies last year's bill to make clear that airport hangars can still test and use this material as required by fire code and some of their insurers, at least for a few years before that use will need to be phased out. It also sets up a program for registration of PFAS containing foams, has a small fund associated with that, and will provide the ability for the department to set best management practices that would need to be followed if you do continue to use that material. And then finally, the bill that is still live in the House right now is Senate Bill 20-11138. And that bill will create a fund. It will start at about $5 million in the first year, $6+ million in future years, that will support efforts to do further testing, further analysis on a site basis, address filtration, emergency water supply needs, other sort of things for systems that may be interested. And then also we'll set up a buyback take-back program so that we can help fire departments who still have and use this material, replace it with safer alternatives, get some of this off the shelf and reduce that exposure into the environment in the first place as a way to try to make, or at least keep things from getting worse. So with that, I'm happy to take a couple questions before I need to duck over. And otherwise, we'll leave you in David's capable hands and run from there. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll pass it back to David. I may be able to rejoin towards the end of the process, depending on what's happening over in the Germ Dome. But appreciate everybody's interest in this subject and look forward to engaging in the future. Thanks all.
All right, Dave, are you still there?
Hello? Oh, can people hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Yeah, for some reason it looked like, I think when I switched over, my muted out. Let me see here. So I'm gonna go back to sharing the presentation. Thank you so much, John. If you're still there, good luck. All right, am I still there?
Yep, we can see your presentation.
Through the screen share, can you guys hear me? Oh, great. Oh, thank you. So yeah, happy to be here. I'm David Dani. So it's interesting because just how big this contaminant has gotten so quickly. I was originally working with drinking water providers kind of through emergency situations, and we all of a sudden get this media request, and this reporter was asking, is the drinking water safe, in this area in El Paso County? And we had no idea what this reporter was talking about. We looked at all of the regulated contaminant data that we had, and everything looked fine. And come to find out, this reporter went through all of this unregulated data that's collected for EPA by water systems nationwide and looked into PFAS levels. So it's something we didn't even know, anything about this at the time, but all of a sudden, all of this data kind of came to light, and lo and behold, there were water systems out there nationally and in a few near kind of like wide field security area near Colorado Springs that had levels above this EPA health advisory at the time. So that really kind of moved this contaminant to the forefront, and we'd never seen something like that happen before, of people looking at unregulated contaminant data. And since then, there's just been so much action and stuff happening with PFAS that really it kind of created this position that I'm in to help with emerging contaminants. And so that's just a little history. And now, I mean, I would say we've got people across all of our divisions, all the way up to John Putnam, that are putting tremendous effort into figuring out kind of what actions were taken and what to do about PFAS in particular. And for people who aren't aware of what I'm even talking about with PFAS, it stands for Per and Polyfluoroalkl Substances. So that's the technical term. It's a mouthful, so we shorten it to PFAS. And so what makes these unique is there's thousands of them. So there's so many different types, and they're human-made substances. So these don't occur naturally. And what makes them unique is they have this bond that's stronger than what you come across in nature, and they don't degrade because of that. So once they're in the environment, they stick around. Once they're in your body, they don't really go away. So once they're there, they're there. And so that's kind of, one of the concerns with these chemicals. And they're used in products that resist heat, oil, stains, grease, and water. So really anything you throw at it, it just kind of bounces off. That's how I kind of picture it. And, where we've seen contamination, and one of our biggest concerns is where they're used in firefighting foams. And so these are special Class B firefighting foams that are specifically used for fuel fires. So this isn't something you would dump out of a plane onto a forest fire or use with just a regular fire, but they're specifically used for fuel fires. But they're also used, these chemicals, in just regular products that are in our lives every day. So I threw in a few examples of just microwave popcorn bags, pizza boxes. Growing up skiing in the 80s, we used to, you'd make fun of people coming up and spraying their jeans down with Scotch Guard. Turns out that stuff was, had PFAS. The Gore-Tex, everything we were wearing also had PFAS. So, I mean, really didn't matter kind of what you were doing. PFAS was just parts of products. It's Teflon pans, stain-resistant carpets. So it's in a lot of products that are very useful. And because of that, and the fact that these things don't degrade or go away, pretty much all of us have some level of PFAS in our blood. They've even found levels of PFAS in polar bears and things up in the Arctic that, only have it from PFAS getting introduced in the environment and it actually kind of making its way up there. But our primary concern that we're trying to tackle right now in Colorado is really the exposure through drinking water. And from what we've seen, measuring just kind of blood levels in people in various places, if you have high levels in your drinking water, you have higher levels of PFAS in your blood. And so that's the reason why we're really trying to and limit the PFAS exposure through water. And so with these chemicals, there's ton of research that's currently going on and some that's already happened. And what they're finding is there's some pretty serious health impacts at low levels of these chemicals. And so this slide just shows some of those: high cholesterol, liver damage, thyroid disease. There's especially a concern where you've got young infants that are breastfeeding or bottle fed, since they're consuming a lot more water that could have PFAS in them. Possible links to cancer. There's still investigation happening on that, but there's just a lot of serious health impacts to really scare the public. And what's interesting about them is these chemicals right now aren't regulated. So what we're using is a EPA drinking water health advisory. So this is purely guidance to help people make decisions. And what makes health advisories especially difficult is, there aren't requirements. There's not language that water systems or folks have to use. If you're above a health advisory, there's no specific actions that are required. So it's purely using guidance values. And so in 2016, after kind of all these discoveries of PFAS were happening nationwide, EPA revised their health advisory for PFAS and PFOA to 70 parts per trillion, which is, few drops in a swimming pool. It's very, very low concentration. What's interesting is just since then, over the last few years, there's been other health studies that have come out. There's been a lot of states and a lot of organizations and that have gone in and really come up with their own levels. So, there's folks that are saying this level's too high. There's newer information out there. What do we do about these other PFAS substances? So what we're seeing is nationwide, there's lots of states that are going in and coming up with their own values. And some of them are enforceable standards for not only PFAS and PFOA, but other different chemicals as well as part in the PFAS family. And what's difficult is all of these values that they're coming up with are different. So you really don't have states taking a similar direction and coming up with kind of a consensus value to follow. And so I think that creates a lot of confusion for the public of, well, what is safe and what does this mean when there's so many different levels out there that people are using? So that's one of the many challenges that we're dealing with. We're currently with drinking water using the EPA PFAS health advisory. And they recently, EPA just kind of announced that they will be regulating both PFAS and PFOA. So there will be drinking water regulations coming in the future. Nationally, what's happening with PFAS, this slide is mainly just to kind of highlight all the stuff happening, because these are things that I think will be pretty of interest to this audience in particular. But EPA nationally, they've got a PFAS action plan. And in it, these are the steps that they're taking, but they'll be regulating PFOA and PFAS in drinking water. So we just provided comments to them about this. But there's lots of other states and organizations commenting as well about their approach and for regulating them. And they'll also be determining, are these, hazardous substances that could require cleanup? What do we do about all this other PFAS that are not PFOA and PFAS? So, looking into regulation for that, and there's research happening whether do we just start kind of pushing these, out of the thousands, do we start grouping them based on similar characteristics and then setting levels for kind of, a group of them? So those are different approaches and stuff that are getting researched and looked at instead of trying to individually go in and do it, which is almost impossible with just how many different types of PFAS there are. They're developing toxicity assessments for more PFAS, so we'll have different health values coming out for more species in the near future. One thing that'll be happening that'll be interesting is EPA every few years collects information from all of the large drinking water providers nationwide through the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. So they come out with a list of about 30 contaminants, and all these water systems monitor for them. And then EPA uses this information to see, are these chemicals showing up in drinking water and at what concentrations. And then they can use that information to decide whether they should look into regulating those chemicals. So there was a round looking for PFAS. That's how we discovered it near the Colorado Springs area. There's going to be additional monitoring starting in 2023. And it's going to be for a lot more of the PFAS chemicals. So everything you could possibly monitor for in a lab will be included in that suite.